Okay, so we want to now talk about the case of having a two-branch conditional where the two events are not mutually exclusive. In the last YouTube, we talked about taking a list, and we'll do the same thing here, and making two lists that have the even and odd numbers in them. So first of all, let's set the list up. Let me do this a slightly different way here. Let me do this as first of all, I'm going to type in range of let's say 15, and it doesn't really explicitly do anything here, and that's because the list that's made here, it's called an iterable. It's implicit, and so to make that explicit, I'm gonna use the built-in function list and put range 15 inside list. And so range 15 is going to give me this implicit list, but I make it explicit by taking the built-in function last of it. So it's a function of a function, and if I do that, the list is now the numbers, it consists of the numbers, the ints 0 through 14. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to now take these numbers, and I'd like to put them in the numbers from that list L into two accumulator lists. One list that is divisible by the numbers divisible by 2. So how about if I go d by 2? I'm going to set that to be an empty list initially, and then I'm sorry, d by 2 is what I meant, and d by 3. So we want to take the numbers from this list L, and if they're divisible by 2, I want them to put them into the d by 2 list, which is initialized to be empty, and if they're divisible by 3, I want them to be put into the d by 3. You might think I could use the same technique that I did before, and so let's try that first. And so I'm going to use a for loop, and I'm going to traverse L. For num in L. So let's okay, so the Boolean condition for being divisible by 2 is num percent 2 equals 0. And in that case, I would be putting that into the d by 2. D by 2 dot append of num. And if I did the second condition, if I did that with a with an else if, okay, so I'm going to copy this and change it. And then I'll change this to d by 3. Let's see what happens if we do this. Okay, so here's d by 2. D by 2 is 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14. And so those indeed are all the numbers from L, which I put into the d by 2 accumulator as I traverse the list L. Let's look at d by 3. Okay, so d by 3, it claims that the numbers divisible by 3 are 3 and 9, and that's certainly true, but it missed 0, 6, 0 is divisible by 3, 6 is divisible by 3, 12 is divisible by 3. So there should be some more numbers in there. Well, what happened? Well, the problem is that I coded this with an if-else if. And so the way this logic works is if this Boolean is true, this second else if is not executed. In other words, this is only appropriate if the two events being divisible by 2 and being divisible by 3 are mutually exclusive. And that worked for even and odd, but it does not work here. Why not? The reason it doesn't work is that you can have a number like 6, for example, which is divisible by both 2 and divisible by 3, which is why 6 did not appear in this list. And so being divisible by 2 and being divisible by 3 are not mutually exclusive. So we need to do this with two if statements here. And then so let's recode this. And so we're going to reinitialize the accumulator lists. D by 2 equals empty list. D by 3 equals empty list. And then I'm going to Alt-P back to the for loop traversal. And so this first one is fine, but the second one, instead of doing an else if, we need to do an if. In other words, we need to just completely, for the second conditional, completely test again. Whether it's divisible by 2 has no impact on whether it's divisible by 3 or not. In other words, that's the salient difference here. Okay, so now if I type, look at what's in D by 2, they're all there. And if I look at what's in D by 3, they are all there. So you want to code mutually exclusive devices using if, else if, or even better, if and else. But if they're not mutually exclusive, you need separate if statements.